Hey everybody, welcome back to OHKO, a Pokemon VGC podcast. I am one of your hosts, Joe Brown, and Sierra still celebrating with her family, some family things going on, so she's not here this week. I'm joined by two great VGC veterans. Regional champion Milwaukee, Andrew Ding, is on the pod, and our good friend Josh Lorcy had a great performance in Milwaukee. Andrew, we will start with you, my friend. Congratulations on the victory. How's the last week plus been since you got that title?
Thanks. Honestly, not too different. I think the first regional win definitely felt like of course I was still happy to win Milwaukee, but I think maybe just because the first one is always the first one, it just like felt different. And yeah, I had to like go to work basically right back like the next day. And so, yeah, it's honestly kind of like weird to context switch because for 72 hours, like all you're thinking about is just Pokemon. And then you have to switch back to work mode. But yeah, it's been good. A lot of people reached out to me, which I always appreciate. And, everyone's been super nice. And yeah, but honestly, not too different because Monday happened and just gotta go back to work. So
you're like the guy in the corner, and the meme is like, nobody knows I'm Milwaukee regional champion. Like everybody at work is just doing their thing. I love it.
Yeah, pretty much.
Now, Josh, friend of the pod. You're back back and better than ever. I was watching your run in Milwaukee. I was trying so hard, brother. I was like, every round, I'm like, well, we could do Lorcy X2. Oh, we could do Lorcy this road. And just the Terrapago snooze fest sometimes doesn't work out for your benefit, Josh. So how are you doing? Because you also had a great run in Milwaukee.
Listen, I'm actually doing really great. Milwaukee was kind of like, I want to say like a surprise draw. I'm not really competing this season. I got like IRL stuff going on, so I'm just enjoying my time. And I'm a competitor, like Joe. I've been around for years. I'm a competitor, and I'm like, the last two events that I went to, I really dropped the bar. I went to EYC and I dropped, I think like 2-3 maybe, and the event prior to that, I literally forgot what regional was that. I went to regional and I didn't do too well either. I think that was San Antonio.
Was San Antonio?
San Antonio. So, but this is me going in with like pretty much zero prep because I'm working so much and I got things going on, and I'm just going off the confidence of me being good at the game because I've been playing for so long, and I could just go. But I've been getting real humbled every time I go into an event. So this event, I got prep I think 3 to 4 days before the event because I hit up Poke Alex and I'm like, yo, bro, I'm going to this event. I don't have a team. He's like, what? Really? Here it is. Boom. And sent me replays, told me how to play it, and from there, that's how the top 32 came. And I'm honestly really surprised at how well I performed because I have, I think when I play now, I have this form of anxiety that I need to like do well. You know what I mean? Like if I go to an event, I feel like I got a top 8 or better at this point because of how long I've been playing the game and because of my results in the past. So listen, I'm happy with the top 32. Day 2 didn't go the way that I wanted it to go. I definitely hit 2 of the matchups that I felt like I should have won. And I ended up losing to Paul, which is funny because I played William Brown, who he built. I guess William Brown built the team and passed it on to Paul. And I was in the group chat, and I had the pace to the team because I was supposed to run the team too. But I was like, nah, this is not my style. And I ended up using balance because that's just when in doubt, that's my team. So top 32 was cool. I ended up losing to Paul, and I ended up losing to Michael Zhang, I think his name is. He used Toxapex.
Yep.
Correct. Yeah, so Michael Zhang. And yeah, whatever. It was a crazy run. And I played 5 regional champs. They gave me the hardest schedule ever.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I played 5 regional champs, which I wasn't too happy about because it's like, damn, I come straight from work, as Andrew was talking about, straight from work to this event, 72 hours of straight Pokemon to play like 5 regional champs. And I'm like, oh my God, this is crazy. From Luca Paz to Xiling to Paul to Michael Zhang, and I forgot who else. There's one more I'm missing. Montana Mont, I think that's his name. So that's the 5th person, and it definitely tested me as a competitor because hey, I could hang with them, but listen, I need more than just 3 or 4 days of prep to really get past that next level, So, well, all in all, thankful.
I love that we had two guys here that were like, kind of going soft on the season, going easy on the season, but still trying to prove yourself. Andrew, we're literally backstage. We have this formula, shout outs to TJR from our production team. Like, he has this formula to see like the current championship point standings and everybody's ranking and stuff. And we're like, we're like, we don't, Andrew, like, what do you mean? Andrew's one of the best players in North America. What do you mean he's ranked 2000th or whatever in championship points right now? Like, clearly there's a glitch going on. And as you're like, no, you were going easy this season. You're just playing in Milwaukee, having some fun. Now you've qualified for Worlds with this regional win. So like, obviously it's a whole whirlwind and changes your summer plans for sure. But like, at what point was it? Maybe at the end of day one, maybe it was like in Top Cut. When did you think like, oh man, like I might be on the run right now?
Yeah. So you're absolutely right. I had 0 CP going into this event because I was just planning on, like, I played a lot last season, went to a ton of events and just was super burned out by the end. Even like when Worlds came around, like I played in Worlds, but I was like already mentally kind of like done at that point. And so I was like, I really just like want to take a year off. And so I pretty much did. But then I usually like the first event of a new format. And so this was kind of a good opportunity. And, my friends Sheeling and Justin also kind of wrote me back in. And to answer your question, I don't think I really felt that until maybe I beat Carson in top 4. Like when I got to finals, I was like, okay, maybe this is possible. Because I saw the matchup and our conclusion was actually like Miraidon Cali Ice is not a good matchup for our team in general. If they know like their optimal lines. But I saw that my finals opponent had a Scarf Miraidon, and that definitely made it easier for us because for our team, we're always getting outsped anyway. And so the lack of damage definitely matters more to us. But yeah, I don't think I really thought that like it was like likely that I would win or anything like that until like literally finals. I do think going into the event though, and I was talking to Shiling about this, we did feel pretty confident that we didn't know who, but like we did feel confident that the team was going to do really well just based off our internal practice and all of the things we did, and just because there were like so many players who like so many good players running it, we were like someone's probably going to do pretty well. Obviously there's no guarantee who, but I think the team definitely carried me. So
well, I think it's also funny you talk about like the first event was, if I'm trying to remember, was Collinsville also the first event of that format?
It was the
Series 6 or something like that. I forget what format we were in.
Series 2 Dynamax, right. And I think Dallas that year was that format.
Oh,
and
that's
then
right, Dallas.
OCIC was that format, and then Collinsville was actually the last event of that format.
The whole world shut down.
And then COVID happened, which also like the new Series 3 came out right at that time. Like literally that weekend was when the series flip happened. Oh,
that's right. Yes.
Because I remember my Twitter post then was like, I would post a pace, but the format's already different. So
Well, I think, you're talking about the team, and like, I think my follow-up to that would be, obviously you're in a group chat. It's you, Sheila Yang, Carson Confer, and Justin Tang. All 4 of you are regional champions, like kind of cooking together. So is it, I'm not a regional champion. I don't know. I'm out here team building, sending silly things to my friends, Eviolite War Turtle or whatever, like just like random stuff. Right. And like, if you're with all these top tier players, some of the best players in the world, you're all regional champions, you've all kind of accomplished and proven that you are capable players and team builders. Like, how do those team building conversations go? Do you just inherently trust that this is a good decision because clearly it's a strong player, or is it like, no, I don't know if I agree, but I'll go along with it because I know you're good at the game? Like, how do those conversations work?
I think we're all pretty data driven, and so like any time like someone wants to like bring up a point or um like I don't want to make it sound like there's like a super formulaic or like strict like format, but I just mean like general vibe wise. Usually like we'll have an idea and then we'll test it out either on ladder or internally, and then we'll give some like data driven feedback on like whatever it is that we're trying to test, whether it's the whole team or maybe a certain part of the team, or even like just like one specific part of like one Pokemon or something like that. And then we'll just have a conversation that like kind of naturally flows from there. I think for this, like Shielding definitely was like the main catalyst, and just like I would say like the six coming up with the six was definitely him, and then a lot of like the minor optimizations, such as like the EV spreads, those I think a lot of the other members chimed in and like kind of gave some evidence for. So like for example, our original Urshifu spread had a lot less, not a lot less, but it had less attack, and it was more specially defensive. And the calc that it was for was to live, I think, either Terra Ghost Astral Barrage from Sash Calyrex, or Life Orb Astral Barrage. It's like the same thing, right? And we ended up, so like that was something that like I felt like didn't come up that often, but like I just wanted more attack, because I felt like in some of my games like we were like 1% away from like killing certain things, or like especially because so a lot of people afterwards, like maybe because it wasn't shown much in like stream matches, like didn't really like think Urshifu was like a core part of the team, or like that it was that important. But
yeah, you never brought it on stream in any match.
It's because I didn't hit the matchups that it's for. But Calyrex Zamazenta is like one of the most common matchups going into this tournament, and Urshifu is super important in that matchup. And there were just like certain, especially like Terra, like water, Terra Grass, just like any Terra that Calyrex can have that resists water. We wanted to, like sometimes in practice we noticed like ban surging into Terra Grass or Terra Water plus a Moongeist beam would be like a roll, or it wouldn't kill. And so I just wanted to make sure that we got there. And also like there were some other things I brought up, like the defensive Ogerpon rocks that were EV to live like Terra Water surging strikes or Life Orb surging strikes. I wanted to make sure we killed those like 100% of the time. And so that's just like one small example, but basically like when we start doing like the fine tuning optimizations, like everyone kind of chimes in and like kind of gives evidence, or like presents like an argument, and then from there we eventually like finally agree. Actually, like the night before even, I was like talking a lot about like, hey, should we like make our Ursaluna Terra Fairy, specifically because I thought the Miraidon Ice Rider matchup was like so bad that like Terra Fairy Ursaluna would kind of solve it, because you can protect in front of the Miraidon, see what they lock into, and then either Terra or don't Terra, accordingly. Ultimately, we decided just like wasn't worth it overall, or like we're trading one matchup for another. But that's like, yeah, kind of like how it works.
Right. And then same thing with Josh. Like you're working with Pokeouch, you're working with Chua, right? You got a lot of great connections. In your case, you're kind of relying on them. Where it seems like Andrew's a little more in the conversation. You were like, bro, help me out. Give me the sauce. Like, do you think there's a world that Alex gave you this Andrew this Tang Ding Carson team, and like because good Pokemon are good Pokemon, like would you still top 32 with Andrew's team, or was it specifically something about the core that Alex gave you that clicked with you specifically?
Just comfort. All of I think my best placings have been with some form of intimidate / pivot / setup. So I view that in high regards in terms of if it's viable to play in the format, I'll use it. But the team that William Brown ran was very trick room orientated with just not mons that I was too familiar with. I needed a little bit more prep, maybe a week or two to kind of download everything because William Brown gave me the rundown of all the matchups and it still wasn't clicking. And I'm not going into an event to just, mess around with just any team. So I was like, all right, I'm going to use this and whatever happens, happens. I think my issue is, and it's crazy for me to say this, I know that like I'm cool with everybody. Like all the time, I have no problem talking to whoever. I'm really cool with just about everybody. But it's funny enough, people don't know. I'm not in spaces or conversations of team building or prepping with people. I'm kind of just there. Like, all right, like Tang, for example, is like a prime example. Justin would like hit me up, yo, let's run a set. Or we'll play like 20 sets, and then that's it. That's my prep. There we go. And now I'm going to Worlds. That's literally was my prep for Worlds, by the way. But just play these young kids all day, and I should be good, But yeah, I'm not that guy to kind of like. I don't like to put myself in any group because I know people already have their groups already, and I don't want to like disturb them or bother them, whatever the case may be. But Alex is like a good friend of mine. Like we talk outside of Pokemon all the time. We check in with each other, and he's also somebody I don't want to bother too much. But I ended up just hitting him up off the fact that like, hey, like if you have something you could pass me and you're not using it at your next event, just let me know. He's like, no, I send you this. And then he sent it to me, and then he literally called me like the next hour, and we were online, and we're just prepping and playing, and he gave me the rundown of the calcs and everything, and then I really did appreciate that. Like he didn't have to go out his way to do that, you know what I mean? So, yeah, shout out to Alex, but I do want to give a shout out to Shiling Tang because I don't think like he does get his flowers. He's starting to get his flowers now, but like, man, I have like a high respect for like somebody who's able to like break the game. Like the way that he could just kind of make teams, and he's also a strong player, so it goes hand in hand. And he's also had really great accomplishments, whether it be on the online ladder, IRL, and with the team compositions that he's shown us throughout this year, last year, and years prior. I think that he deserves a lot more credit than people give him. And this is just me just giving him 5. And he's like, I played the team. And mind you, I actually had the team, which is funny enough. This is a strange conversation, but I just wanted to end this out. So I don't know if Andrew knows about like the whole Alex ran the team on his stream. I think like probably maybe 3 or 4 days prior to the event. It was like the same 6, whatever the case may be. I'm the one who passed that 6 to Alex because I ran into that 6 online and prep. I said, yo, I swear, if I had the text message to show you, I would show you. But I broke my phone. But I told Alex, I said, yo, I just played this team online and I was fighting for my life. You should try to run it. I swear, I'm not joking. And he's like, this looks heat. This looks good. And then whatever, he made his own spreads or whatever. But funny enough, I ran into the team and I played Shiling. And I'm like, whoa, this is what I played against online. So I played probably one of them or somebody in cahoots.
Yeah, I think you played
Did you know about this, Andrew?
I think on ladder, you probably played Luca, who took the team from Justin.
Yeah, that's funny.
But it's funny because I'm actually pretty good friends with Alex too. And so I actually messaged him. I was like, because he also thought, I was just like taking the whole year off. And I actually messaged him and I was like, hey, I'm actually going to Milwaukee and you're streaming with my team. And he just like laughed because, I mean, it's all good there. But yeah, it's just kind of funny how everything came full circle.
Yeah, it's funny. But all in all, like it's crazy that I ran into the team. So like I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna see this at Milwaukee. I'll be honest, I don't know, but here it is. Whatever, if that's the case. I ran into the team twice. I played Luca Paz first, and honestly, I was like, game 1, I was about to win the set, and I was up 3. I think 3-2. Yeah, I was up 3-2.
Did you DC?
Yes, DC.
Yeah.
And I don't know how to explain it to people. Like, I'm about to win the set, like, as in, like, I know how to, like, end the game off. Like, I know how the next few turns are going to go.
For sure.
Yeah, but in terms of the rules of the game now, if you're up 3-2, it's considered a tie. That flustered me, I'm not going to lie. Because it's like, dude, I just came off a 16-hour shift to go in the Gauntlet match against Luca Paz. You know what I'm trying to say? And then I lose that momentum because you can't recreate games like that. It's very hard to recreate games like that, especially if you could switch it up. And, you know, it was all good at the end of the day. I lost, but I kept my head up and I just kept playing. And then I ran into the team again and I played Shieling, and that's when I had to buckle down and really figure it out, because I'm like, all right, if Shieling is running it, that means Justin's running it. And that means 2 or 3 other people are running it. And if I expect to day 2 or cut, I need to know how to play this matchup. So I ended up figuring out the 4 pieces that I need to bring in the matchup. And I honestly, I mean, we spoke about it. Me and Andrew actually spoke about it, I think, after day 1 ended or something like that. And he was kind of saying, like, oh, you know, this is one of the matchups that, you know, I think we had issues with, and it didn't feel too good. And I told him straight off the jump, I don't think, honestly, I didn't feel good in the matchup. But later playing it, like, after the whole tournament was done, I realized how good my matchup was actually into his team.
I think it's 50-50, to be honest. I think whoever kind of plays better wins. So it's really funny that you actually ran Pagos, because even though like Shieling and Justin were like committed to this team from the beginning, like a month ago, for like 3 weeks up until the final week before Milwaukee, I was actually on the fence between using their team, even though I was like involved since the beginning. I was like not sure if I was actually going to use that team or like a pretty standard Pagos team with like Amoonguss Ursh. And so I actually played like a crap ton of games with Pagos too, and I was like super comfortable with both teams. And yeah, especially I guess having played so many games on both sides of that matchup, like I definitely think it's like it's a pretty even matchup. It's just I thought for the event overall, like Pagos's bad matchups would probably be a little more common than the bad matchups are, because our team's bad matchups are like really bad. We just like didn't expect them to exist at Milwaukee. Now, like at Portland, like there's probably going to be a bunch of Calm Mind Lunalas and like Calm Mind Miraidons with Sinistra and stuff like that. That just like hard counter our Milwaukee team. But for Milwaukee, that's it's just also like funny how that worked out.
I like that. I like the because you're not just playing the meta, you're playing the room, right? And so it's like not only is your team, do you think it's good, or like you accept the auto losses or accept the good matchups, but you're like, well, how often is that auto loss going to appear? So let's talk about.
Shieling hit it in his win and in, which is really sad for cut, but. In general, like we definitely expected it to be pretty rare. So, and I think Pagos still is like a really good team. Like I don't think it was a bad call at all. I think, it's super solid. And I think it has a lot of skill expression. Like, you can just outplay. It's like one of those teams that lets you just like player diff your opponent. And so I definitely think it's like a really solid call.
So let's talk about this Milwaukee team, and starting obviously with the most important part, the restricted duo in Lunala and Miraidon. And I think going into the tournament, obviously a lot of Victory Road tournaments and grassroots events, and it seemed like Shadow Rider Zamazenta or Miraidon Kali Ice, or like kind of Koraidon Lunala, the new Lunadon, right? Like there was a lot of conversations about those duos. And, I wonder, or how did the conversation with Lunala and Miraidon, because they don't have, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, it's inherent, the synergy. It seems like it seems kind of two great restricted Pokemon on the team together. Like, when you put 2 superstars on the team and hope that they perform well, is that how it felt in practice for you? Or is there a synergy that, I'm missing as a layman person?
Yeah, I think the philosophy behind the team is like, you stack multipliers and your Pokemon just can't ever die unless they get crit. So what I mean by that is, Lunala, if you have a +1 defense boost from Electric Seed, and you have Reflect Up, and you have Shadow Shield, and you have Incineroar too, maybe. Usually we only brought either Grimmsnarl or Incineroar. Like very rarely do we bring both to the same matchup? Like there's maybe one matchup I can think of where we do that, but that's like kind of the concept behind the team, where you kind of stack up these multipliers and they kind of make your Pokemon unkillable, right? And it's the same with Miraidon, right? Like if you set up Light Screen, you have an Assault Vest, you're clicking Snarl, you're like stacking up all these multipliers where, so like, you're taking 15 to 20% every turn and you're doing like 100% back. So that's kind of like the philosophy behind the team. And I think all of us agree now that Lunala is probably actually like the MVP of the team, and Miraidon is kind of more of like a support role where it just sets up electric terrain for your whole team, especially, Lunala. And, you snarl, you pivot out. And of course it does damage too. But I think Lunala is kind of like that glue that enables the team to function really well because, I think everyone knows now it just like synergizes so well with Ursaluna, especially in Trick Room. And you can wide guard Earthquake, you can set up Trick Room for Ursaluna. The defensive synergy is there because Lunala is immune to fighting type attacks and vice versa. And so I think we just realized, even if Miraidon and Lunala in a vacuum like didn't seem like the most obvious pairing, Lunala just like did a really, really good job of enabling what we needed it to do for the team, which is, enable Ursaluna. And like you can, because of like all those multipliers being stacked up, like Reflect, Electric Seed, Intimidate, Shadow Shield, especially if you Terra your Lunala, pretty much nothing can blow it up even with a double up. Like there's almost like no 2-move combo in the game that can kill it even if they double it. And so it's just like really hard to stop the team from doing what it wants to do, which is kind of disrupt your opponent a little bit in the early game maybe, and then in the mid game set up a position where you can set up Trick Room and then pivot to your Ursaluna and then just kind of sweep. So yeah, I don't know if that answers your question.
No,
but,
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, 100%. Josh, what are your thoughts on the Miraidon Lunala duo? Because Miraidon was on 42% of day 2 teams.
Listen, I'll be honest. I'm kind of jaded with the results of this event. I'm not gonna lie. I think Miraidon wasn't a surprise. Like I knew, like we all knew Miraidon was good ever since like Rajan Ball did his thing at that event. It was the eyes were just on it, right? Now we come forward to double restricted. Miraidon complements a lot of other restrictions really well. So that's just a given. Lunala, me and Justin actually we had a video about the restricteds. We had a tier list video, and I was like, bro, Lunala just the ability. It's just ability and stats alone just looks way too good not to be bad. You know what I mean? It can't be bad. Like, there's no way. It's just finding the perfect mons that complement it really well and able to support it and allow it to do the things that it needs to do. And that's what Shieling and his group found out. They found an exploit on how to make Lunala pretty much broken. Like he said, stacking the multipliers, being able to do 100% and only taking 15% of damage. It mathematically just makes a lot of sense, right? It just works. But I think that Lunala Miraidon is really good. Is it here to stay? I'm pretty sure. Are there going to be different variants? I'm pretty sure. We've already seen it in the GC alone. I think Fede Campo ran just a slight little different changes, but it could be just because it's best of one close sheet. I think he had Covert Cloak on Grim, and then I've seen a lot of people run this the same 6 that these guys ran at this event. So it means that the team is just really good. Now we're going to question how long can it withstand being this good? Are people going to adapt? Like you said, Calm Mind Lunala. Calm Mind Lunala really good into that 6. Other variants that people are looking at are, this is going to be, I think this team is going to be the new CSR Zama going into like the next event. People are going to not overlook, they're going to prep into this and make sure that they have at least a 50% or higher matchup spread into this team. And honestly, like I haven't really been playing after the event, but I don't know if there's teams like that are 100% going to be able to withstand doing those kind of numbers into that team, because the team is really good. It's like really solid. I feel like, I don't know. Me and my boys were talking about it after the event. We're like, damn, like is there a team like right now we could think off the top of our heads that has a 100% solid matchup into this? Like, you feel good into playing this, and we're like, nah, we can't think of anything yet. But I'm sure.
Andrew can't give up the sauce. He's got crew members going to Portland.
Actually, none of us are going to Portland. All 4 of us are not going, and I think in Justin's YouTube video that we recorded for his channel, we actually talk about the bad matchups.
Okay.
Part of the reason we were okay with sharing the full pace in the EVs is because we all felt like this team is like an early format team, and like I think some concepts might stick around for the whole format, but at least like that exact 6 and like that exact pace, we didn't expect it, or we don't expect it to be like a Rinya Sun or like an Arubega, where like it's just like a perfect team, so to speak, you know, through the whole format. And that's why we were okay with releasing like the full pace, because I don't think any of us are actually planning on using it again. But yeah, I do think if you're going to Portland, though, you should probably expect to play it a lot.
You should have an answer into it. Yeah, for sure. Maybe a brick break out there somewhere.
Yeah.
You know, who knows if that's the
you know what's the crazy thing, Joe, about brick break and these moves that break screens? It's like you don't even want to click it half the time because you feel like you're wasting a turn like doing that, because you're not doing much.
You're doing what they want, right? Yeah.
You're kind of doing what they want, because then the Grimmsnarl kind of just goes for the move again, and it gets it up again, and you have to go again. It's just, I don't know. I think breaking screens, I don't want to say it's like it's not what it is anymore, like how it used to be. You know what I mean? Like you could break screens and kind of play the game, but like now you're having mons that are just doing way too much damage. Even through screens, some mons actually hit still really hard. Like Miraidon still does a lot of damage and things like that. But for the most part, like I said, going back to the results of this event, and we talked about Lunala, Miraidon, I think we need to kind of focus on a highlight of like the team that everybody thought was going to be like the sauce for the event that ended up folding, which is like this CSR Zama variants. I mean, I want to give a shout out to all the NA players because they were on top of it. They were not allowing this thing to go past. I think like the highest CSR Zama was maybe like,
it was 42nd.
That is kind of insane.
Wow.
I know Japan was like, huh? Like this is not right. You know what I mean? So like,
so you're saying that's NA good? Because the EU tweets I saw were people saying that NA is bad because they can't play the best duo in the format.
You know, that's standard EU talk. I think that I think that a lot of the teams, as you could see from the top 8 and moving down, had definitely outs into CSR Zama and were well prepped to play against it. Do I think that, and also, I guess the counter argument also, were some of the best players, were they running this variant? That's something I didn't really look into, but from the looks of it, a lot of the top players did not run it. Wolfie ran Luna Karai. Colin Hire ran Luna Karai. The Tang's group ran Luna Miraidon. I ran Pagos. A couple of other people ran Pagos. Just a lot of people just kind of got off that wave because you know why? The whole prepping into it. Everybody has a decent idea of how to play CSR Zama for the most part, because it's been everywhere for the most part since the start of the regulation. And I think that this format has a little beauty in it that a Shiling's group and other groups and other players have highlighted, that there are duos out there that you could mix around and make things work. You know, coming to this event, I expected only to see CSR Zama everywhere for the first 8 rounds, and Miraidon, Lunala, Bruban and stuff. That's literally what I expected, right? For the most part. But during my course of my run, I definitely played a lot of different duos that people were testing out. I think Ho-Ho and I want to say, I think I played Ho-Ho Pagos or I played Ho-Ho Miraidon, which I think is pretty cool. I think Ho-Ho's like super underrated. I think it's like really, really good. I played Ho-Ho, Miraidon, Michael Zanger, and Ho-Ho, Miraidon. So I want to give, like, NA is, you know, that we were cooking this event, but I guess we got to see what EU decides to do with their event to kind of get an idea of like where the format is going into, I guess, Portland. Do I still think CSR Zama is really good? I think it's still like really good. I just don't know if it's what we thought it was from the beginning of the format.
What do you think, Andrew?
Yeah, I think actually, do you prefer to be called Lorcy or Josh?
Sorry. Yeah, anything works.
I think Lorcy brought up a really, really good point, which is part of the reason I think CSR Zama didn't do great at Milwaukee is just because there weren't a ton of really good players running it. And that will obviously skew the data like inherently, right? And there were a few good players on it, I think, but for the most part, yeah, to Lorcy's point, I think more good players ran a different build, and on top of like everyone being super prepared for it, I think the result makes sense. You know, personally, I actually played 0 my entire run.
Wow.
So, yeah, and that's just like how it worked out. And so I do think that it's definitely still like good though. But yeah, this event, it was definitely pretty heavily counter teamed, and also I think maybe just like the best CSR Zama build just hasn't been figured out yet. And then once that gets figured out, it'll see a rise in usage. I think in a lot of these, you know, we saw this in Reg G, right? Where in a lot of these restricted metas, there's like a cycle of the meta where, you know, one team will fall and then it'll fall under the radar and then it'll like pop off again because no one's prepping for it, and it'll just like go through this cycle. And I think, I mean, I don't know, anything can happen, but I think that might be possible with this too. But yeah, we'll have to see, you know, what happens at Utrecht and Portland. And yeah, but I definitely think it's still good. It's just, yeah, got to find the right partners for it.
Yeah, I think the EU balance robot's going to come out in droves with the, you know, CSR Zama just like 7 of the top 16 or something.
If you want to play balance, I just think Pagos is better personally, which is why that was like the other thing I was genuinely like heavily considering. And there was even a point 2 to 3 weeks before the event, I was even leaning towards Pagos heavily. I was like, oh, I got to tell the Tangs like, sorry, I'm not going to use your team. But yeah, so I think maybe it just needs to be figured out. I know there was like on ladder some players who were like rank 1 with like almost 90% GXC and they were running CSR Zama. And so it has to be like, I'm sure it'll have a good result. It's just, yeah, it's only been one event. So
yeah, we got time. Exactly. I mean, I remember, obviously, we have so much to get through with this format, and I tweeted out when the format got announced that Lunala was about to go on the most legendary Scottie Pippen run of all time as like the greatest wingman to, you know, and here we are at the first event, you know, helping Miraidon. You're saying it's really the hero, but, you know, Miraidon was the secondary. But I think there's another Pokemon on the team that I was very excited for. Like, kind of, he turned into like, you know, from 6-man to Nikola Jokic, and that was Ursaluna, bro. Ursaluna was the MVP.
Yeah.
Ursaluna was disgusting the whole weekend of Milwaukee. Every round that we had in Ursaluna on stream, as we said, 42% of the teams had Miraidon. So those trick room Ursalunas, they were absolutely putting in work. And I was very proud that you were using Lunala and Ursaluna together, because I don't know if you remember back in 2023 at NAIC, we actually had a caster battle showcasing Reg D, which was going to be the Worlds format, and I put together a Ursaluna Cresselia team for Trick Room, and I called it Moon Room. And now, obviously, Lunala is just a better Moon Trick Room Pokemon to put next to Ursaluna. So you guys have like the updated Moon Room version here. But like, talk to me about Ursaluna, because like, bro, that he might as well have been a restricted. He was you won the regional by knocking out 3 other Pokemon on screen at once.
Yeah, no, for sure. Ursaluna is, I think if you get it in the right position, it definitely feels like a third restricted. Again, I think Miraidon having such high usage definitely contributes to that, because not only is it inherently good into Miraidon, but a lot of Miraidons in this, like pretty much all Miraidons in this format can't protect, right? They all run a choice item or assault vest. And so it's like even harder for them to stall out or like pivot out of it. It's definitely like, and it's enabled so well by the screens and, you know, the Lunala next to it. And so, yeah, I think in the matchups where you bring it, which is not CSR Zama, honestly, but it is really, really good for sure. And yeah, definitely the MVP of like my stream matches for sure.
The other kind of, we had a conversation, Sierra and I, through the weekend. The other Pokemon that felt like a third restricted in our stream matches was Raging Bolt. I was wondering if I get both your guys' thoughts on Raging Bolt, especially with all these Koraidon teams. Like, you're actually able to have that photosynthesis boost instead of needing a booster energy. So you can hold Life Orb, you can hold, Assault Vest, whatever. Like, did you two happen to run into any Raging Bolt teams out there? Like, how did that Pokemon feel? Because it's the same typing as Miraidon, right? So if Miraidon's so strong in the format, then Raging Bolt kinda also can do a lot of damage.
I'll go first. I think what makes Miraidon really the difference. Obviously, Miraidon and Raging Bolt is obviously the damage output that Miraidon brings, activating terrain, helping your partners not fall asleep, and doing damage at the same time. I think that they just play two different roles. Two different Pokemon played differently. I think the only sets that kind of maybe mirror each other a little bit is Andrew's AV set and the AV standard Raging Bolt set with Snarl. That's the only similarity I think you could find between the two. But in the beginning of the format, I felt like Raging Bolt was sort of like a fraud. I wasn't really like, oh my god, let me put Raging Bolt on my team kind of thing. It didn't feel like that for me in the beginning. Towards I guess I think maybe 2 days before the event, I started to Bolt a lot more. Just because I found a team that worked with it. It was like a Cali Ice Flutter Cheat, Raging Bolt kind of team, and it kind of just worked on that team, especially, and I thought that Bolt was really good. I think Bolt is, I don't want to say if it's in a weird spot. I personally don't know how to make it work well, but I do think obviously it's still a good Pokemon to have on your team if you need to have that kind of coverage on your team. I still think it's great. What's your thoughts, Andrew?
Yeah, I think I mostly agree with you. I think on the right team, I actually think any Pokemon can be good. But I just checked. I played 0 Raging Bolt in my run.
Oh wow!
But I would have loved to, just because Ursaluna is so good into it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think again on the right team, I definitely think it can definitely still be good. Although the only teams I can think of are either Koraidon teams or Balancy CSR Zama teams. Those are the only two archetypes I've seen it on. I think it's when I think about Raging Bolt, and what it does really, really well, I think the primary thing is it shuts down Urshifu really well. And the thing is, though, on Koraidon teams, which is probably the team archetype that Bolt is maybe the most common, or would be the most common on, they already do such a good job of shutting down Urshifu because, they set up Sun against it, and, you have a Flutter typically and stuff like that. And so, I guess unless you're Jolly Rock Tomb, but for the most part, right? For the most part, it's if you think about the opportunity cost in that sense, there's usually more value even on Koraidon teams, because the one thing Raging Bolt, in my opinion, did really, really well, which is shut down Urshifu, it's already covered on the most common team it's on. And obviously back in regulation, I think F or E or something, Raging Bolt was the Terapagos in that format, where it was just setting up Calm Minds, and it kind of played a different role. But I think now the format's a little too fast paced, or just Raging Bolt's been outpaced, where it's able to do that. And so it shifted its role into more of an Urshifu check / in some ways actually a Miraidon check. But I think maybe some other team that I can't think of now, but some other team needs to enable it more than it's currently being used. That's just my personal opinion, because again, I think the one thing it does really, really well is already being done very well by the team that it's seen the most on. So
yeah, and I definitely think that it's a part of that Koraidon crew, right? With Fluttermane and Brute Bonnet and Raging Bolt, they just all get inherent stat buffs the same way that Pokémon had Iron Hands and Iron Bundle and Iron Treads on his team. We can segue to Pokémon's run and his Ho-Oh on that team, which I think is definitely one of the big stories of this tournament. As Lorcy mentioned, big glow up from where it was in Reg G, which maybe we had an 800 player regional, maybe like 6 people in total had a Ho-Oh as their one restricted. Now that you have that access in that secondary role for it, Adi was second in Swiss, and he won on stream with the screens Ho-Oh. Obviously, Joey's version of Ho-Oh very different with that Miraidon team and all the future Pokemon. Like, what are our thoughts on Ho-Oh? Because I feel like as long as Kyogre is going to be just like dead on arrival, not in this format to run like Scarf, Origin Pulses in Ho-Oh space, I feel like Ho-Oh can be pretty solid.
I think Ho-Oh, if you ran it at the last event that we were all at, I think that it was a really good call for the event. It has a pretty good matchup alone, just itself, sitting there into CSR Zama, both the restricted pairs. It eats up Astro Barrage for lunch, and it could take a body press pretty well. Not the best, but pretty well. I don't know. It's just a mon that I felt like it's probably going to be good at this event, but I think maybe, especially at the event, I don't know how well it's going to do. In my opinion, I think Ho-Oh is pretty decent. If I would put it in the tier, I'd put it in maybe B. I just, like, it's one of those mons we haven't found a team, like, this is 100% the way to run Ho-Oh. Like, Pagos, we pretty much know, like, Calm Mind set up with Intimidate, redirection is kind of the route that you want to go for the most part. So I feel like with Ho-Oh, it's not figured out yet. Yes, it had good results, but although Joey had a very good place, and shout out to Pokémon, I definitely still think there's hope that there's still a better way to maneuver with Ho-Oh than just his 6. It's very important that players kind of look at the GC. I tend to look at the GC a lot because I like to see what Japanese players like to use, and they'd love to upload their ideas and their team comps after the event is done to Twitter. And Ho-Oh was on some teams, but I did pick up that Cali Ice, leftovers with Leech Seed, and with Grimmsnarl, I think, on the team, and sometimes not, was a big thing that they liked. And they also liked Kyogre. There were a lot of players that placed decently well with Kyogre. So going into the next event, not you, because I know all you're going to see is Pagos and or
Zama CSR.
Yeah. Honestly, I think okay, Andrew's team, CSR Zama and Pagos, I feel like are going to be the big 3 going into that event. That's just my call. Pagos for the win though. But just to go back to what I was originally talking about, it's just Ho-Oh's just it's a mon that you gotta have patience with. I feel like I haven't found. I've been working on it, and I still haven't found something. I'm like, this is 100% how to run it.
What do you think, Andrew?
On
Ho-Oh,
I actually don't think I'm like super qualified to answer this, just because I haven't played a single game with Ho-Oh this format. I've only played against it, and I think the team I used is pretty good against it, and so I might have a biased response because every time I played against it, it just died to a facade instantly.
Deleted.
Like, I actually think you're not supposed to bring Ho into us, regardless. Like,
and with Miraidon too, right?
Yeah, exactly. But in general, like, I think this event showed like it definitely can have potential. I think, like Lorcy said, it's really good in a CSR Zama, so that makes sense. And I think it just maybe depends on how the meta will develop. Actually the person who got rank 1 in the Japan Nets qualifier was using a Kyogre team. I think I'm like 99% sure. And so that's actually a Pokemon I'm more interested in seeing how it'll develop, because I used Kyogre a lot in Regulation G. And yeah, like I'd love to see like how Kyogre can be like used and developed. And obviously if that picks up more, I think it might hurt Ho even more. And so we'll have to see. But I wish I could give you a better answer. I just think that
Listen, I was on the Kyogre.
I haven't played any games with it, so I think personally I don't think I will be using it too much. But I do think, yeah, like this last event showed, it definitely has some potential. But maybe it's more of like a meta call Pokemon than like a consistently good Pokemon. Yeah.
Yeah, but like I was, I had the Kyogre team as, like the Swordfish team as my like caster predictions, and people were, oh man, that's not going to do anything, and we didn't see a single Kyogre the entire weekend, and like, was I off base? Was I just too early? Like, is Kyogre going to pop up in Portland or something like that? Like, what besides, because we knew Miraidon was good in Regulation G, right? But like people were still as yourself and Shielding like got top 8 NAIC with a Kyogre in a Miraidon format. So like what do you think are the key reasons that maybe Kyogre was underperforming in Milwaukee?
Wyguard. I'll be honest. Literally Wyguard, because it's like, all right, I think Kyogre's move pool is pretty like self-explanatory, right? You probably want water spout and origin pulse and ice beam if you're running the mystic set. I think people were testing AV. You're going spout, I think origin pulse, ice beam, and thunder. Then there was a variant with a Chien-Pao Zama that they were running water spout and hydro pump with Torn Shifu kind of stylish play. The inconsistencies with the mon, I think it's a player mon. You need to be really well with positioning to utilize Kyogre, because you want to not click Origin Pulse kind of. I mean, you do want to click Origin Pulse, but you don't want to click it like all the time to kind of win the game kind of thing. I tend to not try to click it as much as I can. I try to pivot around. All right, I can click Spot here. I could get away with getting an Ice Beam here. I could double up on this slot, this kind of thing. And I think the inconsistencies that the RNG brings with using Kyogre is the reason like Kyogre and sometimes Groudon are falled into this kind of threshold where it's like, I'd rather just use Lunala Miraidon and hit 100% of my moves, you know what I mean, kind of thing. Or Pagos, I'm hitting 100% of my moves, CSR Pagos, and play a diff that way. But I'm a fan of Kyogre. I think Kyogre's really good. And like I said, looking at the GC and seeing how I think Kyogre performed in from a lot of the Japanese players, I still think there's hope for it.
Yeah, I think to add on to that, so Swordfish in particular, I think if you think in terms of opportunity cost, you're using like 2 B tier restricteds. Like, you don't have a Calyrex, you don't have either bike. And so I feel like already just like in the builder, you haven't played a single game yet, but just like in the builder, you're kind of already giving yourself a little bit of a disadvantage. And for Milwaukee in particular, like, I think Kyogre in general struggles into Cridon, and Cridon is obviously pretty popular. And so that definitely will like hurt it. Yeah. And I think one of the reasons why maybe it performs so well in like a best of one closed team sheet format is because I think Kyogre does a very good job of abusing like not knowing what its set is if it's closed team sheet, whereas like Koraidon, It's like, okay, it's probably going to be Life Orb or Clear Amulet, and you probably know even like what its 4 moves are going to be, most likely, right? Maybe there's like a random Dragon Claw here or there, but for the most part, there's not too much guessing, whereas like Kyogre, I think, gains more in a closed team sheet format just because not knowing if it's Scarf or AV or Specs or Calm Mind Lefties or whatever set like can alter, I think, the way the course of like a game goes significantly, even after turn 1. And so I think that might also be a contributing factor to why it performs so well in like the Japanese qualifiers or just like in that format, and why in an open team sheet format it will struggle a lot harder when your opponent knows exactly what type of Kyogre it is too.
Right. All right, and then our last Pokemon on the squad from Milwaukee, because we're going to talk about Incineroar. Incineroar does what Incineroar does. The last one to talk about is Grimmsnarl, who I think has had kind of a very up and down generation in Scarlet and Violet compared to what it was in Sword and Shield. It was on like every team right back in the day, and it made sense because you were putting up screens for your 200% HP Pokemon. Like you wanted to make sure that they took as little damage as possible. But now we don't have Dynamax. The format's a little bit faster. So how'd you guys get around to to Grimmsnarl on this team in specific. And Adi also had Grimmsnarl on his Ho-Oh team. We saw Ho-Oh take 13 damage from a Miraidon from a Dazzling Gleam with the behind the light screen. It was at 30 health, and it hung on. That was with Hadron Engine also, like absolutely crazy. So like, Grimmsnarl, it does its job, but every time we talk in commentary, it's like, okay, it sets up light screen, it sets up reflect, and now you kind of just like wish it wasn't there anymore. Like, so how did you guys find success with it after the screens were up?
Yeah, I think in particular, double restricted formats in particular, Grimmsnarl is just really good in, because it just feels like the value of your screens, you just get so much more out of it. I think in the current meta, so I guess Grimmsnarls typically will either run Foul Play or Spirit Break as their one attacking move, and I think this is typically a pretty important decision. And I actually felt like a lot of times, like even if I set up the screens, like clicking Spirit Break is pretty good value, because there's so much stuff in the format, like basically any of the special attacking restricted Pokemon, right? Like Miraidon, Calyrex, Pagos, they all like if I'm the Grimmsnarl player and I know I'm getting a Spirit Break off, like it feels good. Like, so like I don't mind that happening. And then even into like some of the physical attackers, like it's really good into Koraidon if they already use their Terra, or if they, can't Terra. Even if it's like doesn't make sense to click Spirit Break, you can always click Thunder Wave, which never hurts. And then at that point, it's already like 3 turns, and so usually Grimmsnarl's either like dead by then, or I think if it's still alive, that actually probably means you're already so far ahead in the game that it doesn't matter. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, Grimmsnarl. Let's talk about that annoying Pokemon that I hate. But I love
especially as a Pagos player, I get it.
Yeah,
and he's so ugly too.
It's funny enough.
He is.
Grimmsnarl is like Andrew said, really good in a double restricted format. I think that people also underestimate the fact that its longevity on the field is kind of like underestimated. I think in prior formats, I think maybe last format, barring like Jinxie Zoo, if I pronounce your name wrong, pardon me. He ran Grimmsnarl, I think, last format for great success. I think the thing that makes Grimmsnarl like really good right now is that the fact that there's not really a lot of mons that could just KO it off of turn 1 after Grimmsnarl goes for like a move, whether it be Reflect, whether it be Light Screen. Usually Grimmsnarl could withstand at least bare minimum 2 turns in this format. That's how I feel for the most part. Unless there's like a crazy double up, whatever the case may be, or crit. The power of being able to get up both screens and having Light Clay, and then clicking that Thunder Wave that could destroy somebody's game plan into your team because they get powered the turn where they need to do something, or going for a Spirit Break and reducing a special attack on top of being behind light screens. It's like, it's kind of good. You know what I mean? It's kind of good. It's kind of doing what it's supposed to do. The whole point of running Grimmsnarl is to just be a disruptor, and having screens up and clicking Spirit Break and having this RNG, which helps you win. It just makes like a great player like Andrew, a great player like Justin Tang, a great player like Xilang even better, because now we're not playing 100% like Pokemon. We have a lot of we are still playing Pokemon, but we have a lot of random factors that could be played into it that could help players like Andrew or players that are running Grimmsnarl kind of further their board state in a winning position than just not playing Grimmsnarl at all. So I think that's what's really underrated about it. I think it's a really good mon. I don't see it going anywhere in this reg for the most part.
Yeah, I think actually Lorcy brought up a point I didn't even think of, which was a really good point, since Steel and Fairy are like the only types that can hit Grimmsnarl super effectively. And, back in Sword and Shield, Zacian was everywhere, so you just Behemoth Blade the Grimmsnarl, even if it sets up a Reflect, it's still going to die. Whereas now, there's pretty much no Steel move that's like common in the format that can just nuke it, and the only like common enough Fairy move is Moonblast from Fluttermane, and pretty much I think all, like at least our Grimmsnarl was EV to always live that without Light Screen, and I think most Grimmsnarls our EV to live that, and so yeah, it's because it's like almost impossible to kill it in one shot unless you dedicate your whole turn one to clicking fake out and whatever into it.
Right.
And even then, it's like you have to have a Pokemon that can do that too. So
and it's also like you see some of these mixed duo restricted, right? Like Calyrex Ice Rider with Miraidon, and you know, Andrew, if you're leading a Grimmsnarl up front and they lead their duo, it's like, okay, well, now I have to call the 50-50 of which screen Grimmsnarl is going to set up. Or you could just go for the Thunder Wave, or you could go for whatever. And I think it's just you're forcing your opponent into like a suboptimal decision on turn one.
Yes, that's why we eventually realized into Miraidon Kali Ice, which we did think was an unfavorable matchup in general into our team if they knew their lines. The most uncomfortable lead from their perspective was actually facing down a Grimmsnarl Miraidon, because if we let Incineroar, which was what we originally thought was correct, they can always Draco that slot. Either if they're specs, they can just raw Draco it, or they can just helping hand Draco if they're not specs, and something will always die in that slot, and there's nothing we can do about it, because if we switch in Miraidon or Ursaluna into that slot, it's just going to die. And so leading Grimmsnarl not only makes it so it's like a lot less comfortable for them to just lock in a Draco, but if they lead their Kali Ice, we could just Electro Drift and Spirit Break the Kali Ice. Like, that's a possible play, and just kill it too. Unless they Terra it into like maybe Terra Fire or something. But even then, it might still kill if the Electro Drift just does enough. And so, yeah, but I guess to your point, usually we knew for most matchups, like even if we knew we could only get up one screen, like which screen was more important. And so in the Miraidon Kali Ice matchup, it's definitely Reflect. And so, yeah, usually if you know your lines, even getting up that one screen is like good enough.
And then, you know, last question before we get to our question of the week. So I just have to know, did you ever style on anyone with like Terra Ghost to Thunder Wave yourself under Trick Room to attack? Because that speed tier of Ursaluna, Kali Ice, Iron Hands, like that whole thing is just terrifying to me. Like, did you ever pull off a style moment like that to ensure the Trick Room?
You know, I really wish I could say I did, but I didn't. Because, you know, Ursaluna burns itself with Flame Orbs, so you really only have one turn where you could potentially do that anyway. And usually it's just better to get the burn, because, man, if you paralyze yourself and then you get full parried, it's like the worst feeling.
Okay, but if it works out, you feel like a god. You know what I mean? Like,
I would definitely click it if it was, you know, the best thing to click, or like if it was my only win con or something like that, then I definitely would. But I just don't think I had a board state, or I just like don't think I was ever put in a position where that was the best play to make, and so unfortunately I didn't get the chance to do that.
Should have just lied, Andrew.
I would have believed wrong too. I just so that the viewers know. I feel like the main job of Ursaluna, well, I don't want to say the main job of the team, but the main components of the team is pivoting. Being able to pivot is like an amazing thing in VGC, and I think that team kind of shows you.
Yeah, especially against Pagos, all you're supposed to be clicking is U-turn with Banned Ursh, Parting Shot, and Volt Switch over and over again. So yeah.
And I hated the fact that my Incin was faster than yours. And it's crazy because I wanted to be a little bit slower. If I was
we purposely made our Incin, I think, 29 speed IV to be slow. Yeah,
nice.
I was gonna be 24 because I wanted to.
Yeah,
I forgot what I wanted
last. Yeah.
Yes, I wanted a Parting Shot last.
Oh my god.
And yeah, I know.
The speed tiers are so crazy.
It's that deep, Joe. I'm telling you, it's that deep. But like I said, I played against the team, and I noticed I'm like, I should probably run my IVs a little bit lower. I'm like, I'm not gonna play it. Nobody's gonna run that. Whatever. And I ended up facing it 2 times. But yeah, the main component of like bringing in Ursaluna is you want to bring it on a pivot. Like you want to bring it in on the turn where it's like, all right, if this feels safe for the most part, I'm gonna parting, I'm gonna U-turn, whatever the case may be, and my Ursaluna comes. And then the interaction of having Grimmsnarl, having Prankster, it just doesn't correlate to, well, obviously it's a ground type. So you would need to have it on like a turn where you send the mon out manually, not off a switch, and then that simultaneously the same turn not go for protect. You have to Terra, then Thunder Wave. It's just a lot. And the way that they ran, I think is like, man, that was a good first regional team, man.
Yeah, I think
I would have believed you, Andrew, if you were just like, yeah, I did it like 6 times. So I'd be like, that'd be so cool.
no, I think maybe this is sometimes you can hard switch into Ursaluna and click
Yeah.
wide guard in front of a Kali Ice, and that'll prevent it. Like it kind of accomplishes the same thing of like you're preventing it from taking any damage. But I think Lorcy kind of hit the nail where ideally you can volt switch or parting shot into your Ursaluna safely, and then that way you can activate your flame orb on the same turn and just get it going immediately. I think the team enabled it very well, so it kind of worked out.
I mean, for sure. I mean, the Volt Switch trick room under, behind screens is like very safe to and once you're in the trick room, you just wide guard earthquake. You just handle everything under the sun. Absolutely love it. All right. So we're going to get into our question of the week. So if anyone's just joining our podcast for the first time, we always have our viewers submit a question of the week at the end of every episode for our guests to have a conversation about. It doesn't always have to be VGC related. Most of the time it is Pokemon related, obviously. But if anyone has any burning questions for us to answer on the podcast, make sure you join our Discord, linked in the description down below. And this week, our question of the week comes from our viewer, Nick, which he asked it 2 different ways. I like the original way that he asked it first. It's more general. It's better for you guys to go off of this. And they're looking for advice. Basically, what advice do you have for picking up and using the Tangang teams like that was in Milwaukee? This is specifically for newer players or people trying to understand to become better at VGC, because a lot of times these new players, they don't have the experience to understand why a team is so good. And then if you just pick up Andrew's team and start playing on Showdown, you're not really improving or getting as many wins as the great players with a great team like this. So what advice would you have for newer players using successful teams like this to become better players?
Number one, social media. I think for the most part, all of actually, that's crazy. I don't even upload the teams that I use, but for the most part, like the top players tend to have outsources to the teams that they use at events. I think more so now Patreon more than ever now. But Tang and their group, they did like a little YouTube video. Andrew said earlier, and I'm pretty sure they probably highlighted all the good matchups, all the bad matchups, and expressed their difficulties throughout from their different perspectives throughout the tournament. I think it's important to listen to what players have to say about their teams. Andrew, Tang, Shieling, they don't need to explain to anybody how good they are. You could just let alone just see it from their play alone. Watching footage, watching VODs. A lot of us that make content, whether it be Alex, whether it be me or anybody that's making VGC content out there for the most part, tends to use teams from these events on stream or whatever the case may be, and we'll just ladder and play with it. Go in the chat, ask a couple questions. Yo, Lorcy, what do you think about Tank's team? What do you think about this matchup? In my opinion, I don't care. I'll talk about it. In my opinion, if I were to play yada yada yada, I'll bring these for reason being so on and so forth. And you just grasp a little bit of knowledge from there, bit by bit. And then I don't know, just ladder too. Like there's nothing harmful about playing Pokemon and learning. I think trial and error is one of the biggest learning concepts in Pokemon. If it doesn't work, you keep trying until it works, kind of thing. And you don't really need, if you don't have outlets to Tang's group, if you don't have outlets to me, if you don't have outlets to even some of the top players, there's nothing wrong, because we all started from the beginning. I honestly, I didn't have no outlet. I just kind of just played the game all the time. And from there on, it led me to different people, different groups. Just like I said, play, watch content, and ask questions.
Yeah, I think Lorcy gave a great answer. I don't have too much to add on to that. I think this is something I do. Like if I'm trying to pick up a team, and so I think this applies for not just newer players, but kind of all players. Like, and I know that team was played on stream, and I feel like I'm new with the team or something. Like I'll just watch the stream matches and try to understand. Like, okay, yeah, like the player who placed really well with this team, like what did they do on stream, and like why did they do that? And then I think the way I would word it is I think every team tries to accomplish something, right, to fulfill like a win con. And so and that might be different for every team, right? For Pagos, it's like setting up Pagos slash like trading well enough with it, so you just can outposition your opponent and stuff. And so for our team, kind of like the win con or the goal, right, is you just stack up these multipliers, and because you stack up these multipliers, you set your mid game up in a way where you can either trade damage effectively enough, or if you're playing against a really fast team, then set up Trick Room and trade damage with Ursaluna that way. And so it's like kind of understanding the win con behind a team, and then just starting there, and like Lorcy said, just play games, and when you play the actual games, just try to execute that win con. And I understand maybe understanding what that win con is might not always be super obvious or easy, but there's so many resources out there now that especially for these like top teams where you have people doing team reports, or you have even just like other people who didn't create the team but are content creators, and they're just streaming using the team, who are also top players, and they're kind of talking through their thought process. Yeah, basically everything Lorcy said.
That's how I live my life.
Also, don't sleep on these Japanese team reports. Also, like there's a lot of Japanese players. I don't know if they do it more so. They used to do a lot in the past, but I don't know about now. I think I saw a couple from this GC, but a lot of them do take the time and put out these teams. I think more than a lot of them Americans and EU players do. They put out team reports, and they're kind of well thought out. They literally give you the EV spreads, sometimes even damage counts. Well,
I know Shohei does it, Ryota does it also.
Yeah, there's a lot of them.
For sure.
And if you're able to translate it, they literally give you the main metagame teams and what they bring into the fore and their reason and the reason why. I think like that is like literally like it. If you could have somebody, I can't give you like Joe gave some great players. Can't give you their names, but there's some players out there that are really good. Obviously, Japan's really good. That are really good players that have these team reports, and they literally have everything that you need. So even if it's not a team that you want to run and you're new to the game, I think that it's not harmful to pick it up to kind of learn a little bit. Any little bit of knowledge you can get from this game goes a long way. And I'm still learning. So
yeah, that would be my advice to answer the question is like, I think a lot of, and this we talked about this last time Lorcy was on our pod with Justin about like skipping the grind. And a lot of people try to skip that process of what makes you a better player. And they're just, okay, well, I'm going to use Andrew's team because it won a regional, therefore it's good. So I'm going to enter this, grassroots event, and I didn't win, or I went 2-6. I'm so upset. This team is good. Why didn't it work? And my recommendation for new players picking up good teams like this Tang team, or like, using Arbeg in the last format or whatever, is like, if you're using a successful team, the goal should not be to win with it. The goal should be to learn if you're a new player. Mm-hmm. So if you're learning, like we just take a look at this, like, okay, oh, this is our Astral Barrage switching. Oh, okay, we always live this Draco, or oh, we don't live this Draco. Like learning why the team is successful, not skipping the grind and skipping the workout process and hoping to get the the flex bot and win a victory road event without putting that effort in. And I think that's what a lot of, because we have a lot of casual or newer players to the scene in our community, and I think a lot of times newer players struggle. Just like, okay, I will copy paste, therefore this team is good, so I should perform with it. You should use successful teams to learn why they're successful, not for you to replicate the success, if that makes sense.
And before we end this off, I want to say that I've been playing since 2015. I know Andrew probably started around 2019, 2020 season, but the year of 2019. When I started, the newer players were using like Butterfree on teams and stuff like that. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Butterfree took me at OCSC 2020.
Damn, not a good example to give, but
and at Salt Lake City 22 actually.
Yeah,
anyway,
damn,
on stream.
I was gonna say that was the Butterfree Pikachu team, right? Yeah. Oh my god, I remember that. I'm so sorry, Andrew. Oh my god.
Oh, I look so bad now.
No, it's all good.
But to elaborate on that, basically, I think that the casual player has evolved from using
for sure.
not knowing what to use to like, oh, I see this the 6 that Lorcy ran, I'm using it at my next event, and then I get paired into the person. Sometimes I'm like, damn, like this person's like really good, and you know, a lot has changed from the casual. Like the casual VGC player has evolved tremendously, and thanks to the content that's being poured out, now. So I think that all the new players are doing what's right for the most part. It's just you got to grind. Like Carson, I think I was watching an interview, or Carson was just elaborating on how many hours he puts into Pokemon. You know what I'm trying to say? While simultaneously working a crazy schedule, I think he was saying he was putting like maybe 8 hours a day or something like that. Something wild, right? And this is one of the best players in the game. You know what I mean? So in America, right? No question about it. If he's putting in these hours, right? What makes you think you're like LeBron James or Kevin Durant? You better get in that gym, you know what I mean? So yeah, just practice makes perfect. Like I said, I'm not a numbers guy. I don't sit down and do calcs. Like I tell people all the time, my days are done with. When I first started, I did open up the damage calc and I did like things. I don't got the time for it now, but I do got the skill to play at a high level. You know what I'm trying to say? I just need to get the info from other people, and I'm good. But I think it's important. Like we said, don't skip the grind. It's not worth it.
Yeah. That's great.
I don't think there's a way around it. So yeah.
No, exactly. You're going to run into that wall at a certain point. It might not be as you start. You might be a month in and be better. You're in the whatever 1600s on Showdown and you feel good, but you're just going to hit that wall later on. So get that hurdle out of the way earlier on in your process, and it's going to help you for sure. All right, gentlemen, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for joining us here on the podcast this week. We'll start with you, Andrew. Where can people find you?
I actually don't use social media that much, but okay. I guess you can follow me on Twitter if you want. It's
your first tweet in 2 years after you won. Yeah,
Valentine VGC _. That's I think the only one. Yeah, I don't like create content or anything like that. So yeah, that's it for me.
Not yet. What about you, Lorcy?
You can find me on pretty much all social media platforms. Lorcy Loves You. I do tend to stream. I'm streaming a lot more now. People have been giving me. It's crazy. I've been going to events and people are giving me flack. Yo, you don't stream no more. I'm like,
I know.
I'm back. I'm streaming a little bit, 2 or 3 times a week. I'm getting back into it. But yeah, Lorcy Loves You, Twitter, Instagram, everything you name it. That's where I'm on.
Dude, the Lorcy Love You vibes are undefeated on Twitch. I'd say some of the most fun watching VGC. For sure. And Andrew, sorry we brought up the Butterfree Nightmare. You know what? That was
you don't have to apologize at all. I think
that was okay. So fine. What is sometimes like
good
being a part of that historic moment, even on the losing end, like you still were a part of a thing that people remember. You know what I mean? Kind of like not on the Jody, Pachirisu scale, but like that was the talk of the town that weekend. It's was that Butterfree Pikachu team.
Yeah, for sure. Especially game 3, that was a double restricted format, and game 3 he brought 0 restricteds, and I brought both of mine,
Lorcy, you gotta
and I still
watch
lost.
It, bro.
So
I'm so happy I took a break from Pokemon from those years, because I'm hearing double restricted Pikachu Butterfree. I gotta go watch some. I gotta go watch some film.
Yeah. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for watching us this week. Hopefully, fingers crossed, Sierra will be back on the pod next week. Thank you, Andrew. Thank you, Josh. We will. I think be talking about Utrecht, unless is that this weekend or next weekend? Do you guys remember?
It's this weekend.
It's this
weekend.
Okay,
I have no idea.
We'll be talking about the results from Utrecht and getting you prepared for the Portland Regional Championship. Thank you all, everyone, for watching. This has been OHKO. We will see you next time.